Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, John A. Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 8 of the anime series DanMachi. And I gotta say, this episode actually really surprised me in that I did not expect for us to so soon be following on with this giant hulking minotaur and Bell going up against it and everything like that. You know, it was souped up by the hands of this guy Toaru for Freya, I guess, to test Bell or really put him through a rigmarole. Everything like that. And it was just transfixing, the entire sequence. It took up a large chunk of this episode, and I couldn't look away. My mouth was left hanging open, agape, you know. I was like, what is going to happen? I really was at the edge of my seat through that entire sequence. And Loki Familia was right there to experience it as well. And, you know, it's interesting because we opened this episode almost a 180-degree turn away from that. Things are very status quo. You have Bell very much mulling over that his days in training and sparring with Eyes are numbered because Loki Familia is going to be leaving, as we heard toward the tail end of the previous episode, on an expedition, and I'm not sure how long that's meant to take, but it's definitely going to keep them from continuing this sparring and training and all that kind of stuff. And I like that we see them still doing so, their final sparring match, and Eyes basically sort of congratulates Bell for getting in a counteractive move finally, successfully. You know, he rebounds to a point, but of course he's very much still stuck on that whole aspect of trying to attain a level to match hers. Level 6, as we hear them say several times in the episode, and I find that interesting because he's got kind of the wrong idea about the whole thing. At least to my estimation, we all go through this where we see somebody we're enamored with, we want to get to know, but we think maybe they won't notice us, maybe they won't like us unless we do something specific. In his case, he believes unless he attains her level or higher, she'll never sort of look at him romantically the way he kind of, you know, personifies her. But of course, I love that we kind of have this little side bit of comedy with Seer having to do all the dishes in her little restaurant pub sort of framework. And she basically sidles Bell with helping her with this. But then we have this great moment with Ryu, who is a character I really desperately wish we could see more of because she just seems all kinds of badass. And it's a lot, you know, on her part, explaining to Bell what it's going to take, entering a party framework and working together, and by everybody doing that, even if you're low level, even if you can't necessarily pick up your weight in a battle, you'll still, you know, get sort of accolades from that status-wise. But we do see that even though he does feel a sense of, you know, self-deflation, if you will, he still ends up going back into the dungeon with Lily, and they run headlong into this giant hulking minotaur. As I say, souped up. He's only got the one horn, so you know it's the one that was souped up by Toaru for Freya. And Freya is getting off on this entire sequence. I mean, she is giddy, she's laughing, she's in ecstasy watching Bell face this thing. Lily almost gets killed by trying to save Bell. You know, she jumps and tries to push him out of the way, and she's all bloody and everything like that. She just barely manages to get out of there when Bell pleads with her to leave, and this runs headlong into Loki Familia, who are getting information from some other adventurers who got their asses handed to them effectively about this minotaur, and they're saying, oh, this kid's going and trying to fight him and everything at this other end of the dungeon. And so Eyes immediately knows exactly who they're referencing, and she goes to save Bell. So he gets up and he grabs her arm and he's like, I am not letting Eyes Wallenstein save me again. This is not going to happen. The look of determination on his face when the rest of Loki Familia are there, even the guy whose name I keep, you know, slipping my mind, is the one who made fun of him for having run away and having to have been saved all the way back so early on in the series. This guy eats crow with this sequence because the look on Bell's face of determination, and he calmly walks toward this waiting minotaur. Even the minotaur's like, huh? What's going on here? Because all these other people have entered the fray, but they're just going to stand and watch. They're going to be spectators as Bell opens whoop-ass, just a giant can all over this dungeon floor, taking apart piece by piece, literally, this particular minotaur. He loses one of his weapons, he's using the other, he ends up, you know, crunching this minotaur's arm, makes it lose its weapon, which he then picks up. I thought this was such a badass move to see him start wielding the minotaur's own blade against him. arguably a blade from Toaru and everything like that. But I mean, he is just slashing and hacking and destroying this thing. At one point, he's got what seems to be his hand embedded in this thing's belly with the blade, and he starts doing that fire casting stuff, and it's all erupting inside this Minotaur, and he just blows this thing up from inside itself. And everybody's like, that's what I'm doing. I'm watching the show, I'm like, holy crap. And once this thing is gone, once it disintegrates and he uncovers, it seems like one of the horns is actually the, jewel reward itself. It's that huge. But he's completely passed out on his feet. And they're all, what are his stats? What the hell's going on here? He is rank S across the board. Anybody, once again, who's ever played an RPG, rank S is what you shoot for, the highest possible rank you can get. And he's that across the board after destroying this freaking thing. Lily being healed was a nice touch. I love that. Her concern for him, we finally see the payoff to her 180-degree turn in, having gone from being very selfish and having a very bad lifestyle to living up to what she said. The faith and trust, she's basically begging for from Hestia and Bel. She's lived up to that because she's gone and sought them for help and brought them back to him. And her first act when this is all said and done is to run up to Bel and embrace him and, be worried about him. She's there to protect him and help him and save him if possible. And so she lived up to that, and I love that. She's a very honorable character. And as I say, Eyes is left sort of looking almost longingly at Bel, like, wow, just dumbstruck by this. Everybody is basically dumbstruck by this. Hestia, once he is brought back, home, and he's like passed out in bed for, just the end of the episode. We never see him actually get back up again. He will be up probably by next episode. But she's very proud of him, and she's just mystified once again by that hidden element to his status, the magic underridden thing that has been hinted at time and time again that I believe leads back to Freya. And so, I mean, by the end of this episode, wherever we're going to go next is where we're going to go next, It's anybody's guess as far as I'm concerned. I have no idea what the next step is going to be and whether there's going to be a much more solidified relationship between Bel and Eyes and Lily and all this kind of stuff, whether we're going to have another character debut. There are a ton of characters in the OP that I'm like, we haven't seen yet, and I'm just wondering when they're going to debut. I know this is not a very lengthy series and everything like that, so are they going to be bit players? Are they going to be, having episodes focused upon them, and will they add to a particular party group that Bel might form to go and just become the strongest he possibly can inside the dungeon? And how is this all going to play out with Freya? I mean, as I say, she was really getting off on the entire thing playing out, with Bel utilizing his skills and just being overpowered and destroying this friggin' Minotaur as he does, which again, I'm just left speechless. It was like, wow, this entire sequence, the music in this episode and in pretty much all of the episodes, but in this one in particular, that entire sequence, wow. Just goosebumps the entire time watching him defeat this thing. And as I say, I'd love to see more Ryu as well. Just an amazing, amazing episode in this series. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 8 of DanMachi, if you've seen it, and where do you speculate, no spoilers please from the origin material, but where do you speculate the next step is going effectively? Are we going to have new characters debuted? Is this going to continue on? And are we going to see, as I say, a solidification between Eyes and Bel, their relationship? Is he going to start being, approached by Loki and Loki Familia and other Familias potentially because they see now his prowess and they want to try to steal him away from Hestia? All that kind of stuff. I mean, I'd love to hear from you where you think this is going to be going if you have any particular speculations along those lines. So that's pretty much all I have to say on this episode. Just rocked my world. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And I hope this video finds you well. And I'll catch you all later. Peace.